Hello, welcome to this session. In this session, we'll be talking about forms. So, forms are containers for input, label, select, text area, button, field set, legend, data list, option, and option group. So, all these are used for getting data from users, and forms is very important when you are dealing with anything concerning HTML and web development, because it's from the form that the user gets to fill in their data that will send to the database for processing or do anything you want to do with it with JavaScript and the rest. So we'll be starting off with the input types. So the input types in form is very big, so I'll be going through each and every one of them one by one. So before talking about inputs, let's talk about the label. So label is used to make users understand what each form is talking about. Like as you can see in this place now, the label for this is text. You can see that this is text. The label for this is password. So if someone is seeing this label that is a password, you know that what is going to enter here is going to be a password. So that's what label is for. So in the input, there is the input of type text. This is the input we normally use to collect data that is either a number or an alphabet, just a text. Then this one is, as the name suggests, is for password. This one is for email. This one, if you just want the users to enter just number. This one is for phone number. This one is for web address. This one is for you want to create a text input. You want to create an input whereby if someone enters something, then they can search for anything they want to search. So this one is used for search. Then this one is for date. So if I click on the one that is for date, if as you can see, if I click on it, I can choose dates from the date picker. You understand? So HTML makes it very easy for us to implement things like this. I can go up, I can select here and all that. So we also have the one for time. Let me scroll down. We also have the one for time. So if I go to this time, I can use it to select any time that I want and also select either AM or PM. So we have months, type months. So you can use it to select the month that I want to select. We'll have type week. So we can actually come here and select any week that we want. Same with time, date time local. So date time local gives us the ability to select date and time at the same time. Then we'll have the type of range. You can see I can draw this, I can take it up, I can take it down. So we have the one for checkbox. Checkbox is normally used, maybe you want the user to check different options. So there is option for checkbox. Then there's radio button. Radio button is used in a scenario whereby you want the user to select only one option. You use the radio button. Then there is file, in the sense that I can click on this file, then select any file from my system. So if you want to implement something like this, you'll be using the input of type file. This one is for radio button, this one is for checkbox, this one is for range, then this one is for color. If I click on it, I can choose any color I want from here. Then this one is type hidden value, type hidden, sorry. So in the type hidden, sometimes maybe when we are sending data, there are some fields that we don't want to show as part of the form, but is wanted to be submitted to the database. So we normally put them inside this type hidden, something like the ID and so on. So this one is type button. So you can see that if I click on this, you normally use something like type button for JavaScript operation. Then we'll have type reset. So type reset is in a situation whereby if I type something, let me type something here, then if I click on this reset, it's going to wipe out the value. So that's what the reset does. Then we'll have the type submit. This one is used maybe in a form, and is used most times. When you click on it, it's going to submit this form to wherever you want it to submit it to. So when the user finish clicking on putting the values on all this and selecting all this, if they click on submit, it's going to submit to the database for processing. Then we'll have the type image. So in the src is where you are going to put the path to the image. So let's assume I want to use this image that is in this place. So let's just select the image that I have in this project. So I think the name is this photo 3. So you can see the image is already appearing here, and is I can change the inside the I can give it the height of let's say 50 px to reduce the height. I can also give it a width as well. So this is a button, but it's an image, you understand. So these are the input types that we'll have. So next we'll be talking about the select, text area, and the rest of them. So right here we'll be talking about the field set, legend, and so on. So field set is just used to group a particular form, you understand. Like whenever you have a form I want to group them together, you use a field set. So I'll simply wrap this inside a form. So as you can see, we have a form here, then we'll have a field set. So if I compress this field set, you can see the opening and closing tag. So every other thing that you see inside here is inside this field set opening and closing tag. So this is the field set. If you can see this place I'm highlighting, you can see this border that is being drawn here. That's the field set. Then if I open this field set, you can see this place that is said legend. So this is where you are going to give the title of your field set. Let's say for example let me just write an S here so that you see what I'm talking about. So you can see that S have appeared here. Then if I duplicate this field set, then create another one below it, you can see another field set is appearing here with all this content, you understand. So maybe you have another form that you want to group together. Maybe you can call this your bio or anything, you understand. So this is a way of use field set like group different elements in a form together. So let me simply delete this one and go ahead with the explanation of the rest. So inside this field set we're having a text area, and you can see that it has rows of and you can see it has 4 rows and 50 columns. So if I specify something like 5 rows here, that means you can see that the row is expanding. Then I can do something like let's say I'll put something like 100. You can see that this one is going all the way to 100 columns. So let me just make it to be 80 or 70. So you can see that the text area is on 70 columns. So we use text area. Let's say you want to write something a bigger text that is bigger than something that we'll put on an input of text. That's when we use text area for a message or anything. And you can see that this text area is quite customizable on the browser. I can actually change the size of it, scale it big, small, and all that can be done on the browser. So that's for the text area. Then we'll have another one for the select. So this is the select, whereby you can select different countries. So let me explain to you what is happening here. This is the parent element, which is the select. So inside the select you're having an option group. If I open this drop down, you can see that there's this here is in this This drop down is kind of demarcated into groups. We have the North America here, then we have the Europe here. So in the option group, you write the label for the option group. You can see that what I wrote here, which is the North America, is what is appearing here. Then inside the option group, you now create something called an option. If you create an option, you give it a value. This value is what is going to be sent to the database. Then you label your option. You understand? Let's say I want to add another one. Let me create an option here. You can see that I'm adding it inside the option group of North America. So if I go to the browser, click here, you can see that this Mexico is added in the options for the North America. So in the other option group, the label is Europe. You do the same thing. So this option can be as many as possible. You understand? So this is how to create a drop down in HTML. So the next on our list is called data list, which is more advanced because I can actually come here. It has a drop down and I can actually do some filter. Let's say if I start typing, it will be filtering for me. You can see that I did NEW, then it's filtered this New York that is part of the data list. So for you to create a data list, all you just need to do is to create an input. See the input type, an input element, give it an ID of city, or you can skip the ID if you want. The basic thing you need to give this input is this list attribute, and you call it cities. You can see that it is matching with the ID of the data list. So the list is going to match with the ID of the data list. So you can decide to use a placeholder. A placeholder is just something that you can put, like this start typing, which when I start typing is going to wipe out. It's different from value. So in the data list, I'll give it an ID that is going to match what I'm going to put in the list, the value of the list attributes for the input that I'm going to use, because data list is in combination of an input and a data list element. So you can see that it has an option, just the same way that this select has an option. And if you see it here, you can see that it's the combination of an input and a select. So you can see that we have different options here. We have the option and the value for this one is New York, which is what is showing here. We have, as I kept these options blank, the value here is what is going to be presented there. So if I change this to something like something different, so if I click on this place, you can see that you can see New York displaying here, and this new that I put here displaying below it. So if you want to add a different name to what you are giving it, you specify it within the option, but most times it's normally kept on blank. So if I click here, you can see the one of the options, which is New York, Los Angeles, and so on. So that's how to create a data list in HTML. Then if you go down, we see another form element, which is on button. So this button acts like an input, just that we didn't specify it with the button with the input tag. So this one is on button, the type, this one is of type button. So this is the same thing with this. This button and this button is the same thing. So it depends on the one you want to use. So okay, type button, let me just call it on button. So this button, that this click me, and this button is actually doing the same thing. So let me just attach this event handler. So I won't go deep into this because what I'm actually putting here is a JavaScript code. So I'm just putting it here so that I can test it for you and tell you that all of them are the same. So if I click on this click me, you can see this pop up that says hello. Then if I click on this button, you can see the same thing is happening. So just to show you that they are the same, depending on the one that you just want to use. So to create a button element, write button, then give it the type. You can attach the event handler directly on the element or use JavaScript and select this button. Then between the opening and closing tag is where you're going to write what is going to be displayed. You can see I wrote on click me. Let me add extra e here. You can see that is appearing here, unlike inputs that you are going to unlike inputs that what is going to be displayed is going to be entered inside this value here. So then it also has type submit, just the same way we will have input of type submit. So two of them actually like does the same thing. It just depends on the one you want to use. Then I'll go ahead now and talk about this form attribute. So let me just close here and explain to you this form attribute. So in this form you can see that it has an action that is blank. So what we normally specify in this action is the page or the place that will process the form when you click the submit button. So let's just create a simple input. So we're having input of type submit. Let's just call it submit. So as you can see, just take a look at it, just be observing the URL. If I put a name here, then if I write any name, let's say Kiki, then click on this submit here, you can see that there is a question mark here on this same page. So let me just give this a name, because anytime you want to submit a form, you need to give it this attribute that is called name. So it's the name that is going to be used to collect the value. So let's just call this first name. So let's just make this placeholder first name as well, so that we're not confused what is happening. So it's just in this our form, it's just for us to enter our first name and submit it. So let me clean this last this thing we did and refresh the page. So let me just write Kiki again. Then if I click on this submit, you can see that this first name, which is what I gave here, is supposed to be R. So this first name equals to Kiki. That's the value of whatever we are getting. So if you see that this is actually submitting and is submitting on this same page, so in this part you specify the part that is going to process your backend, because this is HTML. We haven't started handling on the backend, so we won't be diving deep into it to see how it's going to work, because once you just specify the part, the person in the backend will start processing the file from there. So I'll just give you a little simulation with HTML file. So let me change this to about us.html. Let's use this as our backend. So you can see that I have a name on an input here, then I have a submit button. So if I type something like Kiki, then hit the submit button, you can see it's going to this page, which is the about us.html. See the URL about us.html. So assuming it was the real backend, they will process the form from there. If they are going to store it in database, they will store it in the database. So next one we are going to talk about is when the value of the action is blank. So if you want to submit to the same page, which is not recommended, but it's also something that is obtainable, all you just need to do is to clean the value here, make it to be blank. So let me just go back, then refresh the page. So just take a look at what is going to happen to URL here. If I put the value on Kiki and hit submit, you can see this time around it's no longer taking us to the about us, it's submitting to this same page. So that leads us to the next one, which is the method. So the method, there are basically two that we use the get and the post. So by default, If you don't specify any method, it's going to be a get. So if I submit my form again, you can see the same thing is happening. It's submitting to the same listen, and the value is being shown on the URL. So a more secure way of doing this is using a method called post. So as I enter the value, let's say Kiki, I hit the submit. So because this is not a file that is supposed to handle the backend, so you're going to get an error, but I just want you to pay attention on the URL. So if I hit on submit, you can see that the values are not being printed on this URL. So anytime you are using a post to send you are submitting with a form that has the method of post, any information or any data you are sending is not going to be appended in the URL, which is very secure for password, or anytime you want to send sensitive data. So we also have another one that we use, which is the encryption type. Like if I add another attribute, which is this one, then it depends on what you want to send. Let's assume I want to send a picture or something. So we are going to use this multipart slash form data. Then instead of using type text, I'm going to use type file. Then I can call this I can clean the placeholder because I don't need it. Then I can change the name to something like profile or something. So let's refresh this page. So you can see I'm having a situation whereby I can choose a file and send. So if I go to the if I click on it, it's going to ask me to choose a file. So I can just simply go to my downloads, then select the file I want to send. Let's assume I want to send this picture. Then I'll click on submit. So because we are not dealing with backend yet, if I try to submit this, it's not going to get submitted because HTML cannot handle the post request. That's why it's not working. But anytime you just want to do anything that has to do with file, make sure you use this encryption type of multipart slash form data.